Welcome to Strange Happenings. I am your host, Liam Fullishite. Today we are going to be talking about strange happenings. Because that's what this channel is about. Imagine that. Strange happenings around Prosser Reservoir outside of Truckee, California. Yes. Very strange. Strange. Just like me. I can be strange because that is my middle name. And I don't know why I'm talking with an accent. Who knows? Yeah, I ain't got no idea. So, we are going to be looking at these strange, very strange happenings. Strange. Almost as strange as this video. Shh! No laughing. Yes, we will take a look at the strange happenings. The disappearance of Kylie Rodney created quite a stir in August of 2022. This underage 16-year-old girl was allowed to go to a party where it was known there would be alcohol and drugs. While there are several theories as to what happened to this poor young lady, the fact is that this poor girl lost her life far too prematurely. There were some very strange events that transpired before her untimely disappearance. Some things that we have not heard anyone else talk about. Maybe that's because people are afraid to speak about it. Perhaps it's because they do not want to believe it. Possibly there are those whose minds have been erased by such entities as MIB, an agency our government does not acknowledge as real. Or, with the prevalence of drugs in the area, it could be that people are just too out of it to realize what transpired. Let us take a closer look at the happenings that occurred before and during Kylie's disappearance. It is interesting that just before Kylie went missing, there were some very strange phenomena occurring that mostly went unnoticed. Mostly because it's difficult to see through all the trees into the sky, because it is forest land. But it's also hard when you're stoned out of your mind and high on meth or fentanyl. We've often heard of phenomena in the sky, UFOs, and things of that sort. There were some incidents that were particularly disturbing during this time period when Kylie, right before Kylie went missing and after she went missing. It is merely a stroke of luck that a couple of extremely nosy pains in the butt happened to be in the area and were able to snap some very interesting pictures. Now, in this next picture, I'm just warning you, be prepared. Because in this next picture, you will see what appears to be an alien spacecraft of some sort, which seems to have a particular interest in Prosser Reservoir. This spacecraft is obviously not of this world. However, it does seem to have English letters on it and also our very own numbers that we use on the whole. Perhaps this is actually some secret weapon whose secret is being withheld from the general public by our government. This next shot shows this strange craft from a different angle. It appears the craft seems to be accelerating. Knowing that it's been seen by the people taking the pictures, we have to assume that the photographers were hiding like the chickens they were behind a tree and were not seen. Or possibly they were hiding in an outhouse where it was like being in the comfort of their own home. A place where they would be familiar with that particular ambiance. Again, this shot appears to show the craft accelerating, attempting to get away from the camera. Obviously, the visitor was not attempting to be hostile, as they didn't use their proton torpedoes to obliterate the nosy people. Now, in this next shot, you'll see the craft then hovers above the lake, some 55 feet out from shore. It was almost as they were looking for something specific in the area. It's like they knew. They knew something that the incompetent law enforcement in the area did not. However, come to think of it, that wouldn't take much. It was at this point that another craft entered the fray. But this was not an alien craft this time. It was one of our own stealth bombers. Yes, a stealth bomber. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Sending a bomber to drop a bomb on a craft that can travel at warp speed and disintegrate the stealth bomber with the touch of a button. Yes, brilliant. But that is how our government works. They are famous for sending a knife into a gunfight. We did get lucky, well, for a second, because there was a chopper that came, a Black Hawk chopper that came and was able to get off a missile, and they came in stealth mode. Duh. It was able to get off a missile, and it attempted to wound the craft. It did shoot at it, but our people were unaware that this alien craft had some kind of force field, so the missile merely bounced off the alien craft and hit our own stealth bomber, which abruptly made a nosedive into the lake. Yes, the EPA is really going to be pissed. Now in this next picture, you'll notice there is an individual who is in danger of being struck by the stealth bomber after it hit the water. Obviously, this person is sharp as a marble, dumber than a box of rocks. His elevator doesn't go all the way to the top. He's 3 bricks shy of a load, not the brightest bulb in the box. In other words, he's an idiot. Fortunately, at least for him, he survived the encounter and has continued to be a pain in the butt to many. We are also wondering if possibly the person to the left was involved with the people in the bomber, as they tossed a laptop computer into the water as they were plummeting into the lake, which would later be found by somebody needing some clickbait. Now, when Kylie went missing, there was a call for the community to form search parties and attempt to find her. Since her mother Lindsay claimed she knew nothing about looking for someone, something even a kindergartner could figure out, they had to bring in other reinforcements to look for the missing girl. They attempted to create a bat signal and shine it into the sky. But unfortunately, the builders were high on drugs, and so the only thing it was able to attract was spiders. However, that worked out fine, as the next day, there was a very famous figure romping around Prosser Reservoir. Again, our nosy people were there at Prosser with their cameras. We don't know why they were there, but they were able to snap some pictures of this hooded figure. Here we see him jumping. Why he's jumping, we don't know. I did not take the picture, I was not there. Again, here he's trying to do a Jesus and walk on the water. Or maybe he's just in really shallow water and trying to make it look like he's like Jesus. I don't know. There are other people that dress up like Jesus. We've seen them. Yes, the amazing Spider-Man was able to help with the search. And while AWP claimed to be the ones to find her, it was actually the amazing Spider-Man who did the work. These next few pictures are positive proof that it was Spider-Man who found Kylie's vehicle and not a diver. In this picture, we see Spider-Man frantically searching as his powerful spidey sense knows there's something underneath the water. We see him frantically trying to bail water out of the lake so he can get to the vehicle. That is what local law enforcement advised him to do. He then realizes that they are full of crap, and he has to come up with a different method. Thud. This next picture, we see him reaching into the water, like he's attempting to pull something out. However, it's obvious he's way too close to the shore. He is nowhere near 55 feet out, so he essentially just ends up playing splash splash in the water. Oh, to be a kid again. However, in the next picture, we finally see the result of his efforts. That Spider-Man does retrieve the vehicle from the water. However, Jared is very, very upset, as he wanted to get the recovery on camera so he could make a lot more money, because That's all he cares about is money. Kind of like somebody else we know. Spider-Man finally gets tired of Jared's whining, and so he puts the car back in the water so Jared can get his money shot. So even though Spider-Man actually found the vehicle, there are still several others who claim to be the ones to find the vehicle. Superman claims to be the first person to find the vehicle, claiming he could see through the water with his X-ray vision and was going to pull the vehicle out. Oh, that may be true, but Spider-Man beat him to it. That simply shows the superiority of Marvel superheroes over the mediocre heroes of DC Comics. No offense to Superman and Batman, but you ain't Marvel. There was another Marvel character who showed up on the scene, but unfortunately, he showed up after the vehicle was located. The Incredible Hulk had been sent as an ambassador to China and was threatening to kick their asses. He had heard about the search for Kylie, but he could not get a flight out of China due to their dislike for his tactics. So he figured the quickest way to get to California was just dig straight through. As you can see from the picture, he was able to accomplish this task, but alas, as stated, he was too late. So, since he was no longer needed, he just sat on his green butt and relaxed, rather disappointed that there were no whales to wrestle in this particular body of water. He decided that he was not needed there any longer, so he hopped off to greener pastures, no pun intended, deciding to take in some of the nightlife in LA. There were some other strange things beginning to happen at this juncture that were beyond explanation. Creatures that were thought to be extinct began to come out from behind the rocks into the open, which was very alarming to those who witnessed these things. One such creature was a very large T-Rex who came to the edge of the water to get a drink because he was thirsty. Duh. But when the people present saw the ancient lizard, they began to scream and run. However, they did not know that this particular T-Rex was a California lizard, which meant he was a vegetarian and no threat to the people. He also came to Prosser not to hunt and kill, but to do two particular things. He loved to play guitar. He would play guitar and dance for hours. He loved to play campfire songs at the campground for the people when they didn't run. He couldn't sing at all, but he tried. He also could not play chords because his arms were too short. He could just strum above the hole, but he still had fun, and that's the important thing. The second thing that he liked to do was surf. He was a surfing lizard. It was not easy to surf on the lake because there's no waves. But he would communicate with the ancient animals under the water that people did not know about. And he would slosh around and create waves so the T-Rex could enjoy himself on his favorite board. And once they got some good waves going, he put on his favorite beach suit and spent the day riding the waves. However, He turned out to not be the most honest of dinosaurs, shall we say. He later claimed that he was the one who found Kylie's car. However, there were too many witnesses who knew that Spider-Man was the one who actually found the vehicle. So they called out the T-Rex. And he ended up walking away with his big fat tail between his legs. And after Kylie was found, there were all kinds of conspiracy theories as to what happened to her. The conspiracy theories began with the appearance of two individuals. Those individuals were Darth Vader and Yoda. Yoda was known as one of the good guys. Darth Vader has always been a bad dude and not somebody you could trust. However, while in the movies, Yoda and Darth were on different sides. In this particular instance, they were always seen together. While some of their conversations were partly heard, such as Yoda saying, "Eat your eyes, I will." I don't do a good Yoda. The people could never tell for sure if they were friends or enemies in this particular instance. Always together. Very strange indeed. And thus, because of this, the conspiracy theories began. When it was known that Vader and Yoda were on scene, other people started showing up, attempting to get in on the action. After the T-Rex left and was not any longer considered a threat, two gorillas showed up, claiming they wanted to look for Kylie. They were told that it was too late, that Kylie had already been found. However, these were very stubborn gorillas, and they decided they wanted to look for her anyway. Go figure. Yes, look at these gorillas. However, it was soon discovered that these were not real gorillas. You fakers. In fact, one of the gorillas started to complain that he needed a new boat and started going around asking for donations for a bigger boat so he could bring justice for Kylie. Of course, there was no need for a bigger boat. He just wanted an excuse to beg for more money. One of the fishermen who was in the area ran his boat over to the one, and he attempted to pull off the gorilla mask to prove that this was a fake gorilla. So he tried to pull the mask off of the one who was asking for money. But unfortunately, it was a cheap mask, and all it did was rip the top off. But once the top was ripped off, it was easy at that point to see who it was. That explained the begging for money. The people had a sneaking suspicion who the other fake gorilla was. So one of the fishermen went over to the other gorilla and he pulled off the mask. And they were not at all surprised when they saw who the second person was. Right after this, there was a woman claiming to be Yoda's wife. But as far as we know, Yoda is not married. She said that she came looking for Yoda so she could talk to him because she had a message from Obi-Wan. But Obi-Wan is dead. Duh. So after talking to this person for a while, they figured out who it was. And she was not Yoda's wife. Then, immediately after, a person showed up claiming to be Yoda's son. There was definitely a family resemblance. So they let the kid alone and they didn't bother him. They just let him wander around the lake and play in the water. But then the kids started going from camp to camp, from car to car, and person to person, asking for money, saying he needed money for a new cap because the one he was wearing out. One of the campers who had been there the whole time became very suspicious. He summoned the young man, called him over to him under the pretense of giving him money. He said, "Come here, boy, I have some money for you." When the young man went up to him, the camper yanked off the cap off the young man's head. And sure enough, they saw who it was. And so then Jeff rolled up into a ball, covered his face with a mask, and rolled away. And so, if you see this man, please call the Avengers immediately. Don't bother with the Justice League of America, as they are DC. They ain't Marvel.